Good evening, everybody, and welcome to All Four Back, episode 97, bringing you all the action and reaction from a busy week of STS activity. I'm, of course, Chester 430. Joining me, as always, tonight is a full house of broadcasters, starting off with Hadlington. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dan.
A very good evening to Shads,
Hello.
and a good evening to Tank.
Good evening.
Good evening. Right. Chaps, we have a bumper show tonight, actually. On tonight's programme, we have a review of the Neil Potter Shield first leg between the Spartans and the Dragons. We have an On This Day with Shads taking over from the Rider of the Week. We have the all-important World Championship Grand Final draw. We then have the Kings Lynn Storm season review by Hadlington with guest Mr. Shads. And then we have the all-important grand final second leg preview of the Dragons versus Spartans. So let's kick on straight on with the action, and we head back at the match between the Dragons and the Spartans in the Neil Potter Shield first leg. Now, of course, Shads, you and I commented on this one, and early doors it looked like the Dragons were pulling ahead, but that second half from the Spartans, that certainly made it interesting.
Yeah, first of all, I've got to say a cracking STS meeting between two top sides. And it was a pleasure to watch it live. It's so great to watch. It was really great. I mean, Dragons were 14 points up after nine heats, looking like they built up a handy lead to take to Peterborough next week. But that was actually their last heat advantage. That heat. And Spartans dominated after that, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, lesser sides would have crumbled at that point, but I've got to say it's good to see Adam McNally grab a heat win. I mean, I think I was a bit overcritical of him during the meeting, and like three-lap wonder and all that. He was in contention in virtually every one of his heats, wasn't he, Dan? And there wasn't, but the trouble is, there's always a mistake in him. Unfortunately, you're just waiting for it to happen, but it didn't in that heat. And I just mentioned a couple of heats. I'd like to mention heat 12 with had you in this one with DL Shaw on a 5-1 with Cam chasing. But once DL scraped her back fence on the third lap, you're out there on your own. And Cam found the smallest of gaps, didn't he, on the right next to the fence on the back straight of the last lap. But fair play to you, had to because you'd done nothing before that. And that was, I mean, I thought you were going to head for your first heat win there. Also, heat 16, it looked odds on a Spartans 4-2 after Squall had gone into the grass. But Stefan, we commented on this at the time. Stefan pulled off a move I've not seen work at Hastings before. He rode that inside line on the last bend and then blocked Cam on the way out of the fourth bend. It's a fantastic move. Like I said, I've never seen that move before.
Yeah, it was certainly surprised everybody because everyone was trying that inside move and just no one made it work. Then up pops Stefan in the last race of the night and pulls it off like he's done so many times before. I don't think 2 points is enough for the Dragons, even though they finished the season unbeaten at home. I can't see 2 points being enough to take to Peterborough. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I can't see any way back for the Dragons. I expect the Spartans to finish the job quite early on tomorrow in the second leg. I just mention Ads. I think we said before when we were picking our riders to watch, I said Ads needs to have a good meeting because last couple of times he was there with the Spartans, I think he only scored 4 points on each occasion. I mean, historically he's performed pretty poorly around Hastings. He was a difference maker on the night though, wasn't he? I mean, even that last place in his first heat, which was a fantastic race by the way.
Yeah.
He was caught in traffic early on and was hampered a little bit by DL Shaw. And once he couldn't really make up the ground, but I think he was the difference maker on the night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw a lot of surprising results as well. Actually, I will bring in, if I can, the two riders that raced in this meeting first of all. I'm going to bring in. He was a guest for the Dragons, and that was Tank, last minute replacement. You were riding and refereeing as well. Little bit of controversy in one of the races you had to rerun. What was your take on that?
It was very straightforward. To the rule states that if you make contact with any rider, whether it's an opponent or your teammate, it's a rerun. So it was a no-brainer. Obviously, racing at the time, I did see it. I hesitated, but I couldn't be too sure, so I raced on to review it afterwards. Realistically, it was what it was. It was a rerun, nothing more. So it was the easiest decision that I probably could make this season.
Yeah, but for
We
yourself,
we did we
seven.
did we did say in the chat that it was a definite rerun, didn't we?
Yeah.
In the commentary.
But I will say, Tank 7+3, and with a last minute call up. I mean, and on a track like Hastings, I mean, you got to be happy with that sort of scoreline, mate. You got to be happy with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think off the top of my head, I think I scored more in that meeting than I did with Panthers when we went there. So and I only did 10 minutes, so obviously got it last minute, and I only had 10 minutes
Yeah.
worth of it. So I'm very pleased with it. You know, if I'm to be critical of myself, I should have won Heat 2 and Heat 13. But these things happen, and I'll just take the positive that I didn't come last. So other than that, I can't really grumble too much. I played my part last minute, and it made it finally poised for the second leg.
Absolutely. And switching across now, Hadlington. A disappointing night
Next slide.
on a difficult track, on a difficult track. But you have the home leg to look forward to. I'm guessing that, I said, me and Shad agree that 2 points isn't going to be enough for the Dragons to maintain. So what's the thoughts going into the match on the second leg?
Just beat them. What we have done before. The Peterborough is, I think, as much as an advantage as what Hastings is, to be fair. So I don't think, I'm going to say we haven't got anything to worry about, because Dragons are second for a reason. And obviously they won't come into the meeting with that lead, so they've still got it all to do. So I think it's going to be closer than what people think, but still got to do a job on the night and make sure we get the job done at home.
Yeah, and of course we'll have a full preview of Spartans against Dragons towards the end of the show. So that was the Neil Potter Shield review. We're now going to move on to something a bit different now, because of course normally we have the Rider of the Week by Shaz. Because there's only one match this week, there wasn't much point actually. So what we have this time is an On This Day with Mr. Shad. So Shad, take it away.
Yeah. On this day, we travelled back to season 7th of March 2013. There's a few familiar names there. Mr. Storm himself, Lango, and of course Ads, who I think was probably his vice captain that season. There's a few names that some relative newcomers may remember, like Don's 101, who last rode for Berwick Piemen in season 18, and Mark W, who returned very recently after a few years away to race in the World Championship qualifier a week or two ago. To be honest, that entire season was a blur for me. I generally don't remember any of it. I just come off the back of a season skippering the Icemen in season 6 that put me off captaincy completely. Just a lot of hassle, mainly caused by a couple of riders who just a pain in the arse all year. I just didn't want the headache anymore. So, like I said, I don't remember anything about this particular season, mainly because I was crap. Looking at my end of season average of 4.71 down in Chester territory.
Wow.
Dawn finished 6th out of 10 teams, with Rye House Icemen, the team I'd just given up the captaincy of, ironically, finishing as runaway champions with 54 points, 17 points ahead of the runners-up Glasgow Cowboys. Eye Candy that season finished 3rd. I mean, the league was very strong back then, with 10 teams and squads of 10. If you look at the team's roster, there were a few team changes throughout the season. Back in the days when the league was oversubscribed, if you remember that, and even if you signed up, there was no guarantee that you'd get a team place. Balmy when you think about it. The situation we're in now, struggling for riders. I mean, in total, 108 riders raced in the league officially, not including pool riders. I mean, people who are relatively new to the game won't be able to comprehend what a strong league we had back then.
Yeah, but that was the older match program as well, with the tactical rides coming in rather than attack sub. So again, like going back, seeing all these different, like the names, I think there's only there's Ad, Lango, Jad, and I think was it Westy in there as well? No.
Yeah, Westy. Yeah, Westy.
Yeah, Westy. Yeah.
Westy is
That was only 4 names from.
That name at number 2 for Eye Candy.
That's the best name ever. That is. That's my favourite name.
It is indeed. Yeah, Dixie Enormous. Yeah. Brilliant. But what I'd love to go back to this sort of era when we had like multiple riders in, like signing up and enjoying the game as it was. I guess times have moved on, and
Yeah.
you got to deal with it, haven't you?
Older, people have families,
Yeah,
find other things
families
to
and
do.
work, other commitments. Yeah,
People
the
having
thing.
baths.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and meals, and meals before a final.
On the lap.
Yeah. Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I'm sure we'll have a few of these on this day more often as next season progresses. But now we have the World Championship final draw, of course, taking place at Halifax. And with that, I will hand over to Mr. Pank.
This is the meeting everyone has been waiting for. After 2 fiercely contested qualifiers, the top 8 riders from each have secured their place, forming the 16 who will compete for the Season 21 World Championship title. The lineup features 3 former world champions alongside the reigning champion. Racer Ryan returns as the current world champion, having delivered a flawless performance last season, a maximum 15 points, unbeaten throughout. The challenge now is clear: can he defend the title, and can he do it in equally dominant fashion? Standing in opposition are former champions Stefan, Rico and Marecki, all with the experience and pedigree to reclaim the crown. This year's final comes from Halifax in West Yorkshire, a venue making its World Championship debut, a new track, a new condition and a fresh test for every rider in the field. So let's take a closer look at the 16 riders who will go head to head on Sunday the 15th of March. From the first qualifier we have number 26, Racer Ryan. Racer Ryan made his first World Championship final appearance back in Season 4. He returned in Season 11, then again in Season 13 before becoming ever-present since Season 16. He claimed back-to-back titles in Seasons 16 and 17, and in Season 20 became just the second rider in history to seal the championship with a 5-ride maximum. The reigning champion arrives with serious pedigree. The second rider is number 37, Rico. Rico's World Championship journey began in Season 4, and just 2 seasons later he lifted the title in Season 6. A former world champion, this will be his 7th final appearance. His most recent came in Season 17 when he stepped in for the unavailable Shaz, and now he's back on merit. Next up is number 4, Stefan. Stefan is the benchmark for consistency. A 2-time world champion, winning in Season 15 and going unbeaten in Season 18, becoming the first rider ever to do so. He has finished runner-up 6 times and 3rd once. His lowest finish, 9th in Season 16. Since Season 13 he has featured in every final, making this his 9th consecutive final in total. This marks his 11th final, joint most in the history, and he hasn't lifted the title since Season 18. Next up would have been number 11, Cappy. Unfortunately, Cappy has informed us that he is unable to take his place in this season's World Championship final. A disappointing development, particularly after he made his final debut last season, finishing 11th with 6 points, and was hoping to build on that experience this time around. In his absence, the first reserve steps in, his Panthers captain, Capesy, who now has an unexpected opportunity on the game's biggest stage. Next up is number 25, Shaz. Shaz has qualified for 3 World Championship finals, but availability has limited his appearances. He was absent in Seasons 17 and 20, meaning Season 19 remains his only final to date, where he scored 7 points and finished 10th. His season offers another opportunity to finally make his mark on the biggest stage. Next up is number 666, Squall. Squall has featured in 5 World Championship finals in total, becoming a more regular presence in recent seasons. Although unavailable in Season 13, he made his debut in Season 14 and has since competed in Seasons 18, 19 and 20. Now firmly established on this stage, he'll be looking to turn experience into results. Next up will be 93, Lofty. Despite being around the game for some time, this marks Lofty's first World Championship final appearance. He has shown he can mix it with the very best and deliver big points. After returning from a short break, he arrives fresh and potentially dangerous. Next up is number 33, the Sorcier.
Le Sorcier makes his World Championship final debut this season after winning a run-up in the opening qualifier against Mark W40 and Hutty 83. A wild card in many respects, but if he can carry his Sliders Championship Series form into the final, he could prove a serious threat to the established names. Le Sorcier beat Mark W40 and Hutty 83 in a run-off for 8th place. From the second qualifier, we have 88, Unknown. Unknown has never quite captured the World Championship, but he's come close, finishing second in Season 1 and Season 3, and third in Season 15. He is the only rider in this year's final who competed in the very first championship back in 2007, and he rode in the opening 3 seasons. This will be his first final since Season 15 and his 11th overall. Joint most of any rider, it could have been a standalone record had he not missed Season 9. The second rider from the second qualifier is number 101, Stephen 101. Stephen 101 first reached a World Championship final in Season 5, finishing an impressive second. Still his best result to date. He returned 4 seasons later and has since become a regular presence. This will be his 10th final appearance, placing him among the most experienced in the field. After managing just 3 points from his 5 rides last season, he'll be determined to respond. Next up is number 902, Dretlochter. Dretlochter is one of the newer names on the World Championship stage, emerging following the Norse inclusion in recent seasons. He reached his first final in Season 19 and delivered a strong performance, finishing 4th, narrowly missing out on the podium. The question now is whether he can take the next step this season. Number 2, Mareki. Mareki first appearance in a final in Season 9, finishing runner-up. He returned in Season 13 and went one better, claiming the World Championship title. After another lengthy absence, he was back last season, finishing 3rd, following a run-off with TJ Griffiths and Owen, a former champion, back in contention once again. Next up, we have 901, Bechki. Bechki made his World Championship debut last season, scoring 4 points and finishing 14th. A first taste of final racing, and now an opportunity to build on it. Next up, we have 72, Cam. Cam first reached the final in Season 19, scoring 6 points to finish 12th. He improved on that last season, climbing to 9th, again with 6 points. His recent form suggests he could be a genuine contender and could see the first father and son duo crowned world champions in the game's history. Next up is number 45, Hadlington 83. Hadlington 83 competes in his 4th World Championship final, having first appeared in Season 17. He has featured in every final since, with the exception of Season 19, averaging around 5 to 6 points per appearance. He'll be targeting a stronger return this season. And the 8th rider from the second qualifier is number 77, Speedy. Speedy enters his 8th World Championship final. His first came in Season 10, where he finished 3rd, losing a run-off to Stefan for 2nd place. Since then, results have varied, and after a disappointing 13th place finish last season, he'll be eager to respond. Much like his brother, Stephen 101, he had to fight for his place this year, winning a run-off against Capesy to score the 8th and final qualifying spot. Proof that he arrives battle-tested and ready. And the final rider to make up the lineup comes from the second qualifier, which is number 888, Capesy. Capesy makes his World Championship debut following the unfortunate withdrawal of Panthers vice-captain Cappy. Drafting in as first reserve, he now finds himself on the game's biggest stage. With no expectation and nothing to lose, he can ride with complete freedom, and that makes him a potentially dangerous spoiler in a field focused firmly on the title. As mentioned, Speedy beats Capesy in the run-off for the 8th place. As a result of Cappy's withdrawal, it means Capesy takes his place as the highest scoring reserve across the 2 qualifiers. And that completes the lineup for this season's World Championship final. 16 riders, 1 title and 1 night to decide it all. We now take a look at the 13 riders who will make up the reserve list. These riders will be called upon prior to the final or on the evening if any of the 16 riders who qualified does the following: withdraw before the meeting, no show on the night, and failure to check in by 8:15 on the evening of the final. The order of the reserve list has been compiled as follows: highest score across both semi-final. Any ties if riders level on points but was in separate semi-finals will go by number of race wins, seconds, thirds, fourths, and exclusions. Run-off riders are positioned higher against those who didn't ride in a run-off. If there is still ties, then it will go by alphabetical order of name. The 13 riders are 40, Mark W40, 83, Hutty 83, 14, Superdip, 261, Tintin, 652, Pompey, 333, Amber Mouse, 111, Alan McNally, 29, Stephen, 7, Hobnob, 92, Heppel, 52, Aaron Herbert, 28, Wolfie, and finally 118, Reese 02. It's time for the rider draw. Who secures the number 1 race jacket? Who faces the challenge of unlucky number 13 race jacket? The stage is set. Let's make it official with the rider lineup draw. The first rider out of the hat is 33, Le Sorcier, a Spartans League winner and 3rd place in the SCS series, and got to the final via runoff. The second rider to join Le Sorcier in is 93, Lofty, ex-Storm rider who took a break from League racing but made a return to gain a place in this final. The third rider of this first heat shall be 888 Capesy. It is Panthers captain and last minute replacement for his vice captain at Panthers, Cappy, who had to withdraw. The fourth rider that will be making up the first heat will be number 2, Mareki, another Panthers rider who took Steppen to the limits in the BGP series, finishing second. The fifth rider to begin the second heat is going to be number 902, Dretlocker, an unattached rider this season who only rode in the BGP this season, finishing 6th. The sixth rider out of the hat shall be number 37, Rico. It is the SCS champion himself, won it comfortably and was the highlight of his season compared to his Cowboys campaign. The seventh rider to be drawn is number 77, Speedy. Made the final via a runoff with Capesy, who we now know rides in this meeting too. The Cowboy rider will be hoping for a good meeting. The eighth rider to complete the second heat will be number 45, Adlington 83, another Spartans League winner and also secured his place in the SCS for another season. The ninth rider to kick off the third heat of 4 is number 72, Cam, a Dragons rider who has had a decent season for his team in the league and also finished 3rd in the BGP. The 10th rider out of the hat is going to be number 26, Racer Ryan. Storm's vice captain, Ryan was the highest scoring rider across the 2 qualifiers. The 11th rider to be drawn out will be number 666, Squall. Dragons captain himself, he did well in the qualifiers, scoring 10 points to make his way into the final. The 12th rider to complete the third heat shall be number 88, Unknown, a late Wolves signing this season, joint top scored with Stephen 101 in qualifier 2, so should go well in the final. The 13th rider to begin the first of the final 4 riders is number 901, Bechke, initially an unattached rider but came in to mid-season replacement at Cowboys. The 14th rider in the lineup to come out of the hat is going to be number 4, Stefan. It is the BGP champion, who is an unstoppable force in the BGP series historically and has won another league title, this time with Spartans. The 15th and penultimate rider to be drawn is number 101, Stephen 101. Dragons vice captain has had a mixed results in league but showed his true abilities in the second qualifier to be joint top scorer. And finally, the 16th and final rider to complete the lineup is number 25, Shads. Another Storm rider who showed a strong performance from the first qualifier to back up his SCS overall tally. So, a final rundown of the lineup order is as follows. We start with number 33, Le Sorcier, 93, Lofty, 888, Capesy, number 2, Mareki, 902, Dretlocker, 37, Rico, 77, Speedy, 45, Adlington 83, 72, Cam, 26, Bryce Orion, 666, Squall, 88, Unknown, 901, Bechke, number 4, Stefan, 101, Stephen 101, and 25, Shads. This lineup is correct as of recording this podcast and posting on forum. And as mentioned before the draw, should any of the 16 riders withdraw before the final no-show on the night or fail to check in by 8:15 p.m. on the night of the World Championship final, they will be replaced by the 13 riders ready and willing to fill in and ride. That concludes the World Championship final draw for the final meeting of the Season 21 season.
So after that very detailed World Championship draw, we now have the next team review, and this is the team that finished third place in the league this season, and it is the Kings Lynn Storm. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Hadlington for the team review. Hads, over to you.
Yeah, so tonight we are looking at the Kings Lynn Storm, as Dan alluded to, finished third place this season. And we'll just look at their starting lineup that they had at the start of the season. Westy Boy, he's brought back the Storm name as the captain, and he also brought with him Racer Ryan as his golden pick, and also TJ Griffiths, who both rode with him the season before. And Lofty and Shads both joined the Storm from the Panthers, and was Heppel filled the first reserve position after winning their league title with the Dragons the season before. And the team was completed by another rider who rode with Westy Boy the previous season for the Spartans, and that was Method, down at number 7. As we said, the track was Kings Lynn, which was chosen by the Storm. Kings Lynn, not, may I add, for this season. And I'm going to bring Shads in early doors, and the home track in the league, which we'll get to a bit later on. But the league matches only won 2 matches out of 5 in the league. Do you think that was because the home advantage wasn't as much as, say, a Hastings or a Peterborough track, or was it just the fun race track you went with?
I think the thinking behind it was it's a fun track to ride. It's a good racing track, we thought, or most of us did. There was a couple of dissenters, although it's not that difficult to learn, as we found out to our cost later in the season. I think our general lack of practice and all the goings on within the team didn't help with our results in the second half of the season. I think the home meet against the Dragons in January was one we really should have won. I think we went down by 4 points, and that was without TJ, and with myself scoring just 2 points. One of my worst performances of the season, if not the worst. I think it definitely cost us the win that night. But no, the track. We knew it was going to be tough. We knew the track wasn't that difficult to learn, but we thought we'd have enough within the team to make a fist of it.
Yeah, I think, as you said, the track was, because there's two versions of it, maybe, that the track's easier to pick up than other tracks, maybe. But it started off there with your season, winning the first 3 matches in the league, and then it was a couple of defeats, a couple of wins, and then defeats at the end, so a bit of a up down kind of season in the end. If we're going to look at the first match away at the Panthers in the league, which you won by 56 points to 40, and every rider in the Storm team in this meeting got at least 2 heat advantages. And for a first match coming to a track that hasn't really been used before in the league is, I mean, a 16-point win as well to boot for the first match of the season was laying down a marker, I think, and definitely all-round team performance, I think, on that night, with 8 bonus points as well for the team as a whole. So that was a really good start to the season. And we move on to the second of my meeting at the Dragons. And as we mentioned before, the Storm were the only team during the whole league season to take a league point from Hastings, with just a 6-point defeat on the night. And Method, they're having his best meeting of the season with 11 points from number 6, with Racer Ryan 13 plus 1, and the guest adds MFT at the top there, 15 points. I mean, after this meeting, Shads, I mean, being the first team to take a point from that difficult track, as we've seen from this week's meeting, how was the feeling within the squad going into the second half of the season, knowing that you'd just become the first team to push the Dragons really close at home?
Yeah, personally, I mean, after that Hastings meeting, I thought we should have got a draw or even a win. I mean, we were fortunate to have Ads as a guest for TJ, and he didn't let us down. He was brilliant on the night, rather like he was the other night for you at Hastings. I wasn't happy with my score. I thought I'd let the team down a little bit. I mean, things started to unravel pretty much after that. There was obviously some tension from the off between Lofty and TJ in Discord, in the chat, in the Storm chat. Lofty seemed to take an instant dislike to TJ, but I have to say the feeling didn't seem to be mutual. Lofty was going through a tough period. I think we talked about it early in the season on the podcast. I mean, unbeknown to us, he was back on the drugs, so maybe TJ was a convenient scapegoat for him. And there was also Heppel and Method who were dealing with their own issues. So practice was usually just Ryan Westy and myself after that meeting. I mean, the early sort of like momentum we picked up sort of basically disappeared. I think any side that had these issues to cope with would struggle. And it's only the fact we had a favourable start to the season, like you said, facing Panthers, Cowboys and the Wolves early on, who had just lost Sizzler and Owen, and had not yet signed Lima and Owen, and unknown. That was our first 3 meetings. So that gave us a decent start. But I said early on in the season that we're not as good as everyone says we are. I mean, a lot of people had this tip to win the title, but even at the start of the season, I didn't think that was possible.
Interesting thoughts there from Shads as we move on to the final match I want to mention here, which is the biggest home victory of the season, which was 57-39 against the Panthers. As you can see there, Speedy guesting with 16 points for TJ. He was absent in this one. And Westy Boy at number 7, 14 plus 3, alongside Ryan 10 plus 3. And if you haven't watched some of these recordings in these races, it's probably some of the best team riding I've seen for a very long time between those two. They just seem to know where each other's going at the right times, and blocking with Ryan blocking and West dividing around the outside is just, it's really, you don't see it very often. I mean, most people just doing the lead and they're gone. But this was the real art of team riding, I think. And it was also the return of Amber Mouse in this one, who came in for Lofty in the team change. And after this meeting, there was a 4-point win at the Cowboys for the Storm, but which set them up nicely going into the last 3 matches of the season. But they failed to win any of the last 3 league meetings. I mean, as Chad's mentioned, just there's tensions obviously in the squad. I mean, why? I guess my question is why? Why do you think you didn't get any points from the last 3 meetings?
Well, we were quite lucky with the way the fixtures panned out, because we had like 3 relatively easy meetings to start with. I think it was after we had our blip with Lofty leaving and people losing interest and having personal issues, which meant they couldn't practice much. Some didn't practice at all until the night of the meeting, and having to face Panthers like 3-4 times towards the end of the season in the league, Power Cup final, and then also the Dragons as well, which wasn't going to be easy. I think we were quite lucky with the fixtures, to be honest with you, that we faced Panthers, their first home meeting, so they weren't really used to the track yet. And we practiced that a hell of a lot. I think we put more practice in for that meeting than we had for any other meeting this season, so it wasn't a surprise to me. And also, like you said, winning at the Cowboys, beating the Cowboys, who had availability issues all season as well. So we got lucky really early, but then our luck ran out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that the Neil Potter Shield as well in the last match, the 2 guests we used and Amber didn't ride as well. Do you think that was stemmed from the kind of the feeling within the camp that basically the season was just kind of over already, or?
Well, Amber was a desperation signing, to be honest. And we obviously had to replace Lofty pretty early on. I think he only raced in 2 meetings. Rider replacement wasn't going to work, and we needed to sign someone to get his minimum match meeting count up. I mean, I contacted Craigie Hurl, and although he wasn't keen, he was keen to ride, but he couldn't afford the time needed. And he was quite honest about it. I think we tried for Potter, and he wasn't interested at all. So Ryan approached Amber. Maybe they go back somewhere. I never found out. He too said he couldn't really afford the time to practice, but he'd turn up for meetings. So we had to accept it. We didn't have any other. There was no one else really we could have signed. In hindsight, it was a terrible signing, but we really had little choice. I don't think he posted once in the team chat the whole time he was with us, and would only communicate through Ryan. He didn't even give availability when we had to choose a race day, so Ryan had to ask him. I can't remember him ever turning up for a practice apart from the pre-meeting. And Heppel was another one who rarely practiced. If he did, it was very occasionally. I mean, he had to be reminded when there was a meeting on. Like the other night, for the second leg, I actually messaged him at 6 o'clock saying, "Don't forget tonight." He goes, "Oh, I forgot." And this was about 7 o'clock when he got back to me, and he'd already made arrangements to do something else. So we had to get. I quickly messaged Hobnob, and Hobnob, he always wants to ride. So I think
Yeah.
he came into our server about 45 minutes before the meeting. I mean, Method is another one who'd only turn up now and again. But like, to be fair to him, I don't want to diss the guy, but he's having a few issues at home. So he turned up for the meeting. I think it was an 8 o'clock start. He turned up at 10 to 8. He had about 4 or 5 races practice before the meeting. But you have to swallow it and muddle on. I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Obviously, there, yeah.
We actually gave up on Amber in that meeting. We didn't even bother asking him.
Hmm.
We were going to go with 6 we had available until Heppel said he wasn't going to turn up, and then that's when we got Baz in.
Yeah, obviously the availability issues, obviously for some teams, is more problematic than others. But we'll go and move on to the final averages of the season, and we'll look at there's a starting average and the end of the season, and then the end one, which is S22, will be the rolling average for next season, should those riders return. So we'll start off there with TJ Griffiths, who maintained around about 8.5 points, dropping just almost half a point on his average. But I mean, for a rider who's his probably first full season, to average that amount is still pretty good going. I mean, coming into next season on that 8.62 for a guy who's probably rid probably 10 league meetings. So that's hats off to him. We have Ryan, who finished the season at number 1 for the Storm on an 8.81 average. Obviously, that will be the average for the next season because he rode all 10 matches, which is what the rolling average is now based on. So well done to Ryan there for topping the averages. And they have the captain there, Westy Boy, who I think probably more down to issues within the team as well. Dropped his average a little bit. Starts next season on 5.76, which I know is better than that. Obviously, having rode him previously. So he'll be looking to bounce back next season. Lofty's average stays the same. As Shad's mentioned earlier, he only rode in 2 matches, which means he remains on 6.30. Heppel was always, again, he actually has the same average as Westy Boy for next season. He's always that 5.5 and just over. He seems most seasons he's the same now, Heppel. And you know what you get basically with the points coming in. And then we move on to Shads, who was the second ever present rider and one who again put almost a point on your starting average and 5.89 going into next season. And we have Method, who only rode 4 league meetings for 5.52, which is an increase of 166 from the previous season. And next season will be just under 4.5 points. And we have Amber Mouse there, who came in at 6.90, but only averaged 4.80 from his 4 meetings, and comes in next season on 6.20. And as he said there, the 2 ever presents were Shads and Racer Ryan, with Amber replacing Lofty, with 4 league matches remaining, and Lofty maintains his average for next season. So we'll just go on to the final part of the season, and the league position was 3rd, with obviously 10 matches rode. At home, there were 2 3-point home wins and 3 defeats. Away from home, there was a 1 4-point win, 2 3-point wins, the 1-point defeat, which obviously, of course, was at Hastings, and the 1 defeat with no points. The Knockout Cup and the 4-team tournament, both runners-up, and I think this may be a first for a while that the same team has had the BRC and the RRC champion in TJ Griffiths and Heppel. So well done to those 2 for that. But I want to ask Shads, I mean, what is your overall view, I'd say, on the team's achievements this season?
Personally, I thought, like I said earlier, we weren't as good as most people thought. And I said so on the podcast a few times. I've already been through the issues we've had. Personally, I thought I was doing okay at racing at number 2. I was averaging 6.62 at the halfway stage of the season, but because a couple of the lads had lowered their average, I found myself in the middle order for the remainder of the season, where I averaged 5.08. By the end of the league campaign, I think that was not including the cup. Out of the 15 meetings we raced, I think I only missed 1. the Cow Cup final, first leg. Only because Mrs. Chad was having surgery the following day, and it just didn't seem right to come home from work and lock myself away in my study for 2 hours. I didn't think that'd be the right thing to do. Probably would have been out of my ear actually the next day when the suitcases on the doorstep. There were a couple of times, I have to admit, during the season I just wanted to end it, not end it, but end the season.
Yeah.
I think I'll be honest with you. I think the Christmas break and the first meeting back at Redcar in the SDS, where I unexpectedly made the final, helped me get my my head back on straight. I think third is about where we deserve to be. Obviously, Dragons a lot better than us, and that home track helped them tremendously. I think if we'd have had a trick track like that, I think if we'd have been a swap, if they'd have had Kingsley, maybe they wouldn't have finished so close to the Spartans, who were the standout team. But I think third is probably where we deserve to be.
Yeah, I think overall, I think third, and then obviously they've run us up in the Knockout Cup and 4-team tournament. It's pretty good going. I mean, especially in that 4-team tournament that you actually needed to run off in the semi-final to get to the final,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
finishing second above the Dragons in the final as well. So
I wasn't expecting that, I must be honest.
That was a good. I think that was a good achievement. To be fair, but I think overall, I think obviously the third position and with a few issues in the squad, I think, to be honest, I think they got obviously you included and Westy Boy and Ryan. I know you three did the main running around for the team. I mean, I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good finish to say what happened and gone on within the team throughout the season.
Yeah, I think me and Ryan, I think Westy was at times just wanted to quit the captaincy, not just quit the captaincy, quit the game. I think Ryan and myself, we had a little separate chat from the rest of the team, when just sort of like geeing each other up and sort of taking a bit of the slack off Westy and helping him out a bit. And I was doing the chasing up the guests. Ryan was hosting most of the practices we had to give Westy a bit of a break, because it's not. I mean, you've skippered it. You Tank and Has, you skippered sides. You know how hard it can be to get riders availability and get them to practice when they don't want to practice and when they're not available. It's just a pain in the arse sometimes. I mean, it's okay when you're in a team like yourselves where you're winning most weeks. You only lost the one meeting all season, and that was in the KO Cup, wasn't it? It's easy to get riders to race for you when you're doing well. It's a lot harder to get riders to commit when the team's struggling. It happens to any team. I mean, you tend to notice that the teams that finish at the top of the league are the teams that use the least guests and rider replacement. And I think that's been borne out this season.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think there's been more than ever, especially as you say for the teams lower down the table. But that is our season 21 Storm review complete. As we hand back over to Mr. Chester.
Well, thank you for that. Has a very detailed review. And with the Storm now complete, we now have just 2 more to go, which is going to be the top 2 in the league, which is going to be Dragons first, and then going on to the champions Spartans. Speaking of the Spartans and Dragons, we're going to move on now to the final part of the show, which is the preview of the second leg of the Neil Potter Shield, taking place tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Of course, the Dragons hold a 2-point advantage, winning the first leg by 49 points to 47. Early indications show that the Spartans are going to be in a lot stronger position being at home. And, with the team that they have and the way that they ride that track, it's going to be a tough ask for the Dragons to maintain that 2-point lead. I'm going to bring in the guys, if I can. First of all, Hadlington, a big match on Sunday, potentially become a league champion and a Neil Potter Shield champion. What's the thoughts going into the camp for this one?
I think just do what we have done all season, and that is to just, if we put the laps in and practice in, then the results will come. But I think this, as I said earlier, I think this will be closer than what people think it will be. We have to make sure we're dialed in fully on the night and get the job done. I mean, if we can get off to a good start, that always helps. And if we can do that, I mean, we've done that in previous meetings, kind of run away with a few meetings a little bit. So hopefully that can happen. But I think it's going to be a tough one. But we'll see how it goes on the night, and just hope for personally a better performance at home from myself. So the boys haven't got to dig me out the hole again like they did the other night. So yeah, hopefully we can add another piece of silverware to the cabinet.
Well, I was just looking at the Spartans team for this season, and effectively, you guys have got 3 number ones, or you got an out number one, which is Stefan, but then Ads and DL could be number ones any season that they ride because their consistency in the game. I mean, even Ads, I think he was a number one in previous seasons. I could be wrong there, but he's been a good inclusion this season. But Shad, I'm going to bring in a Bakan as well, bud. They tough ass for the Dragons to hold that 2-point advantage. Spartans looking good at home. What's your take on it?
I thought before the first leg that the Dragons will need a 20-point lead at least. 2-point lead's not going to help them at all. I think the Spartans will probably run away with this pretty early on. Strong start. I expect a strong start. I obviously expect the Spartans to be at full strength as they have been for the majority of the season. I can only see a massive home win for the Spartans here.
I tend to agree on that one, and I'll bring in Tank as well if I can. Tank, again, your take on the match tomorrow night? How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I think it's going to be it should start off as a close meeting, but it depends really, basically how Dragons do as the meet goes on. Because the longer the meet goes on, the stronger Spartans get. They did it in the first leg. I think it might hinge on Badger's availability. I know some days it's not always great for him sometimes. So that could play a part, and he has scored quite well. Scoring like 8 and 6 points, I believe, when he's been there before. So yeah, he could be a difference maker, but personally, I can only see a Spartans win right now. They should keep it closer than they did in the Knockout Cup because they lost by 30, but in the league they only lost by 10. So it'll be close, but I think it'll be Spartans to win first.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. All of us here decide that's going to be a Spartans win, but hopefully the Dragons will keep it close. Of course, a 2-point deficit in favour of the Dragons going into this second leg. But of course, that all-important home tie for the Spartans in the second leg is going to certainly give them home advantage. And we'll have all the action and reaction on next week's show. And I believe, chaps, we can now sign off for tonight. Before we do go, if you like what you see and you want to get involved with all things STS, we have our social media links with our website, the forum, Discord, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter that gets updated on a regular basis. And with a look ahead to next week's show, here is Tank.
On next week's show, we shall have a in-depth look into the Neil Potter Shield Grand Final second leg between Dragons and the Spartans to see who claimed the title, and then we shall look at second place Hastings Dragons season review, which will be done by Alan McNally and with the guest to be confirmed, and then we shall then finally look at the World Championship Grand Final preview that will be on the Sunday the 15th.
Thank you, Tank. And of course, do not forget, team of the season. Of course, 17th is the deadline for you to get your selections in to Mr. Hadlington. And we'll get that final team of the season broadcast after the Spartans review. So 3 weeks, I'd say 3 weeks time will be the final episode of the season of All Four Back. So chaps, we've reached the end of the show, and it's been great as always. So I will say a very good night to Hadlington.
Good night, Daniel. Good night, all.
I will say a good night to Shad.
Good night, chaps.
I will say a good night to Tank.
Good night, one and all.
And it is a good night from me, Chester. We will see you back here next Saturday for episode 98 of the All Four Back podcast. Until then, enjoy racing, all the best for the weekend, and we'll see you soon. Good night.